Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to swing like Tiger Woods? What it would feel like to hit the ball just like Tiger, to hear the crack of the ball on the face, to hear the ball hiss through the air. When you look at his swing, what do you think? It just looks so simple, right? Most people look at that and say, it just looks so easy. Why can't I do it? When you look at the average amateur golf swing, it looks nothing like this. I think almost everybody can agree that Tiger's doing something different. But what is it exactly? Well, that's a question I've been asked dozens and dozens of times, and I'll tell you what I think it is. I've always given the same answer for the past 2 decades. The secret to Tiger's swing is that he's moving less than everybody else. But more specifically, he's moving less and more efficient than everybody else because he's really just doing one thing in his swing. He's focusing on one thing. Now, of course, he's done a ton of stuff over the years. He's done tons of mechanics and all kinds of things. But the basics of his swing really haven't changed since he was 2 years old. And you can't teach a 2-year-old swing mechanics, trust me. So the secret to what he's doing, in my opinion, simply comes down to what he's doing with his right hand, which he's talked about many times before. And I did a video on it a few years back where Tiger specifically talked about the left versus right, or how he feels, what he associates his golf swing with. Let me play that clip real quick.
Hands are undercutting it a little bit, especially my right hand. I connect all shots with my right hand, so.
It feels like my left arm and the shaft is just dropping.
I connect all shots with my right hand, so.
My left,
With my right,
my left,
with my right,
my left.
with my right.
So there you have it. Simple, right? It's either your left hand or your right hand. That's how you play golf. It's a little confusing for most golfers, isn't it? The reality is both work. Obviously, Ernie Els swings one way, Tiger swings another. They associate each hand with the golf swing completely different. So teaching one guy what the other guy's doing, not going to help really that much, because these two dynamics are wildly different. And I can speak from personal experience that they feel wildly different. But that's not what this video is about. You can go watch the left versus right video if you want to take a deeper dive. This video is about what I believe after more than 2 decades of research of what Tiger's doing in his swing and what it feels like, because nobody has spent more time researching this guy's swing than me. Because I've been obsessed with the swing mechanics for so long. And my swing, as you can see on the screen, has more similarities than dissimilarities. But there's always been one big disconnect, and that is that I've always been a lead side dominant golfer. I've always loved Ernie Els' swing, and golfers who swing like him, that effortless power, that's always been my jam. So you look at my swing here at Augusta on number 8, it's a 300-yard drive, little draw off the bunker, and it looks effortless. And you guys know that I hit the ball a long ways. I don't look like I'm swinging very hard to do it. That is my favorite feeling in the world. But after a bunch of injuries myself, I started not being able to use my left hand. I broke my left hand, and then I dislocated the pinky on the same bone that I broke. And so my left hand doesn't work too good anymore. So over time, I started experimenting more and more with right hand dominant moves, this basic throwing motion versus the classical golf swing. So as I started doing that, I started finding it interesting that a lot of things that golfers struggle with when trying to learn the classical lead side driven golf swing, that things that they struggle with naturally started falling into place when they went trail hand only. They're right, usually for right hand, because for the biggest reason, quite honestly, is the simplest one, and that is that most golfers are naturally right-handed. So to train the lead hand, first of all, if you're going to swing lead hand, you have to use the body more. That's how you're going to generate power. And you also have to have more relaxed arms, passive hands, all of that stuff. And quite frankly, most golfers, they're just not too good with that. It's hard for them to feel that. And the process to learn that, to train your non-dominant hand, your non-dominant side of your body, just takes time. Of course you can do it, but it's just going to take a lot of time. And so I've always been interested with how fast can I get somebody to swing really well. So when you guys look at the roadshow videos I did years ago, you saw massive changes in a student in like 30 minutes, right? So that's cool. That's always been something I've been interested in, because I've always believed that there's some underlying movement pattern that kind of makes the golf swing really simple to learn. And if we just truly understood what that movement pattern was, then golf would be really easy. All the positions that everybody's trying to hit in their golf swings, the things they're trying to do, I need to post up, and I need more lag, and I need to have a flat left wrist at impact. I believe that stuff should all happen naturally. It shouldn't be things that you have to learn. It should be completely a reaction to all the things we're trying to do. But golf is being taught kind of looking at the symptoms, if you will, and not really understanding the cause. So we look at these positions and we know the best players in the world do this. So let's get all our players to do this. But we just manufacture that position instead of moving there naturally. And I think when you're a lead side dominant player, because you have to use your body more to generate power, because you're not adding that much right arm thrust, most golfers just don't really have a good sense of their body. There's not a lot of body awareness out there. We're not superstar athletes, all of us, right? So it's hard to learn how to move your body aggressively, how to post up. Like if you look at my swing here, this is a lead side dominant swing. You can see that my right hand is barely even on the golf club because I don't need it there. But you can tell I'm generating a ton of power. And so I've been able to swing well over 120 miles an hour like this at almost 50 years old for a long, long time. So you can generate power either way. But you can see how aggressively I'm using my leg during the post-up. That's a pretty athletic move that takes a little bit of time to learn. When you start swinging trail arm only, that post-up happens intuitively because of the natural mechanics of a throwing motion. And so that's why I've been fascinated with this over the last few years. If you saw the Axiom stuff that I did, is that I just think it's a lot faster for the average guy to learn and hit the ball farther immediately, which led to the Axiom Power Program, where you saw Pedro pick up 57 yards off the tee in 3 days.
Hey, this is, I've picked up a good 40, 50. This might be 300 yards.
That
it's 371. We have about 80 left to the hole.
So you said a 290-yard drive?
290-yard drive, less than 3 days in. Look at that. It's money.
Flag's right there.
There's
my drive. You're right behind me.
Hey, but you know what? This is a bomb, man.
That's pretty cool. To go from 230 to 287, that's a game changer. You're going to play golf completely different. You can move back to the back tees when you can hit at 287. When you're hitting at 230, you can't. You need to be on the white tees. And that sucks. It's not fun. And it doesn't have to be this way because it's easier to build power immediately in the golf swing, in my opinion, trail arm only. And in my opinion, well, not in my opinion, from Tiger's own mouth, that's what he's doing. And because I've always believed that Tiger's swing mechanics are just simpler than everybody else's, which has allowed him to be so incredibly consistent, make cuts week in and week out, so good for so long. And what I'm more excited about is the changes he's making now on his own. He's said, see ya, sayonara to all the golf instruction world, right? So here he is now with a ton of injuries, and he's changed his swing on his own to feel what feels like is natural to him. Tiger's not some swing mechanics guru, and a lot of people think he must know more about swing mechanics than anybody in the world. Trust me, there's a lot of geeks out there that know a hell of a lot more in an internet forum about golf swing mechanics than Tiger does. Not that he's dumb by any means, of course not. But you can go down so many deep rabbit holes with this stuff and get into all the micro moves and nuances of the golf swing. You miss the forest for the trees. Tiger's looking at the big picture. I'm injured. I need to be competitive. I need to hit the ball far because the game has changed when it comes to power. 15 years ago, there was something like 67 players on the PGA Tour that swung under 110 miles an hour. The Corey Pavins of the world, Fred Funk, all that. That was in 2007. Today, it's something like 16 players swing under 110 miles an hour. The tour players are so much more athletic, swing so much more powerfully, and the game has shifted from a classical lead side golf swing to being more of a trail side dominant swing because that's the easiest way to produce a crap ton of power and speed, which led to the Axiom Power Program that you guys saw, that the average player from this was getting 20 more yards, right? And I've gotten all the way up to 60 with this, and this is not happening over months of work or years of work. This is literally like they watch one 40-minute video and boom, they go out to the range immediately full speed and do it. That's what's cool about this stuff. And it's just, again, because the throwing motion, if you've ever thrown a ball in your life, you probably already know how to swing exactly like Tiger Woods. All you have to understand is the release, and the release is wildly different. So if you're looking at golf instruction information online and you're not understanding how one thing doesn't really work with the other, a lot of times people are kind of teaching a mixture of both, lead side versus trail side, and it gets pretty easy to get muddled where you're missing, not understanding how pieces kind of fit together. And so you may be trying to be really passive with your hands, and you're not adding a bunch of right hand because you're scared of flipping it or what have you, casting it, et cetera, but you don't know how to use your body for power, well then it's not going to work. You're not going to have any power. But then you try to mix that with a bunch of right hand and then things go off. So long story short, it's easier to do one way or the other, and the right arm is the most natural motion that I know of to produce speed. The basic throwing motion has been the same for probably thousands, if not millions of years when we were throwing rocks at whatever to try and get food. This is the most efficient way that man's figured out how to propel an object, right? It's that simple. The lead side stuff and body-driven stuff is natural if you've played Frisbee maybe, but it's not that natural compared to a throwing motion. It is specific to the golf swing, so that takes more time to learn because you haven't done something like the golf swing before. If you're a lead side dominant guy, if you're a trail side dominant guy or gal, you've probably thrown something a million times. And better, it's just really simple to learn how to throw even if you're not very good at it. And again, this is what I believe Tiger is doing. And I think it comes down to an active right hand release. So if you take body speed out of the swing, which Tiger I believe is doing now to protect his body because it's very fragile now. So he's trying to take the stress off his body, which you guys know I've been preaching for 20 years. And now it's caught up to him. And so when he was a younger guy playing, remember what he looked like in 97 at the Masters? Dude, the body speed was unreal. His hips just ripped through there so fast, it looked violent. Beautiful in a way still, but violent. You look at his swing now, today, and it's truly become more graceful and still has power. But he doesn't look so violent because he's taken speed out of his body to protect it. He doesn't have a choice. He's not going to play. When you take speed out of your body, you have to replace it somewhere else. There's only one option here, right? It's the throwing motion. So he's going to use even more right hand than perhaps ever before. And when you look at these videos on the screen, I know there's a lot of guys out there who are teaching like hold the face open and rotate your body through as hard as you can and hold off the release. You can do that. That works too. I sure as hell wouldn't advocate it unless you hate your body because you're not going to feel like swinging like that when you're 50. But it's just an inefficient way to do it. And it's unnatural, right? That's another unnatural thing that you have to learn in the golf swing. And golf's already unnatural enough. Why not take the natural path, the most basic motion that you've probably done 1,000 times, and the thing that Tiger Woods is doing, which is why I think his swing is so simple and so repeatable, because learning how to release the right hand actively is really simple. You're unhinging, uncocking, and rotating. That's it. And that may have been a complicated way to make it sound, but it's really just throwing, essentially. But a lot of golfers are trying to hold their right wrist back to try and maintain shaft lean or maintain lag and all this stuff. All it does is slow the club way down. There's no speed in that. Use common sense for a second. You don't have to understand the golf swing to understand how to produce speed. The simple fact of the matter is when your wrist releases, it can move faster than anything else. So of course, that's where the majority of your speed comes from. We've known that for a long, long time. It's about 2/3 of your speed comes from the release of your wrist. But people are afraid to actively use their wrist. And that's the trick. And the reason you're going to be afraid to actively use the wrist is because you don't know how to use it correctly. If you simply think of doing a sidearm throw and actively releasing with the right hand, like you would, very similar to how you would throw a ball, then that's it. If you start working backwards from there, actually start working backwards from the release point itself, then everything else that you struggle with in your swing will start to make sense. Because the reason that you can't do the things that you know you should do in the golf swing, right? You feel like you swing too long and you can't stop that no matter what you try, or you're across the line, or your elbow's flying away from your body, and you're just like, I don't know how to fix this. When you start swinging naturally and you focus from the release point back, everything else in your swing starts playing off of that, in the sense that if you have a big flying right elbow at the top, again, of course it worked for Jack. Of course you can do that. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can play like Jim Furyk and still hit the ball well. But when it comes to power, Jim didn't hit it very far, okay? So when you are thinking about something in your swing that's off, like a flying right elbow as an example, and it's just making your swing more inefficient, you got more moving parts, then you don't really understand how to fix it because you're doing that for one reason and one reason only, power. Every swing mistake that you make always comes back down to power, or really the lack thereof. You can make a beautiful swing in front of the mirror, I bet. It's perfect, right? Perfect rhythm and tempo, perfect balance. Like, dude, I just got to carry this over the range. Like, I got this. I look like, a pro golfer. And you go to the range, and then you're making some warm-up swings or practice swings, and those look all perfect. Then you go to hit the ball, and what happens? It all falls apart, right? It's because you're trying to produce power because you don't have any leverage. It's so simple. So you start using your body because you lose all your lag. When you don't have any lag, you got nothing left to hit with, so you heave your shoulders at it, you jump up and down, you do all kinds of crazy stuff. And of course you are, because power always wins. Power always wins. Your subconscious will always overpower you and make you do things that you don't want to do, even though you know you're not supposed to do them. And that's the whole key to this. when you're thinking about only releasing with your right hand and you focus on exclusively, primarily getting your speed from the release of the right hand, then everything else is secondary to that, even the throwing motion, because you don't have to throw that hard because you have a lever, you have a leverage, you have a force multiplier. So when you go to release that golf club, it's going to move really fast without your arm having to move fast because you've got all this leverage in your wrist. But you got to actively use that with a trail side, a right hand dominant swing. So that's what's cool about this, is that for people who have struggled with a lead side pattern of using the body for power, don't have any power, you can hit the ball way farther. And these people who you're seeing get 20, 30 yards, I only worked with 2 of them in person. So it's not like I'm in there doing a bunch of stuff and all that. I've only done that with 2 different people who I tested this with. The rest of them are watching a video and just doing it on their own. So you can hit it PGA Tour distances. You can swing way faster if you can throw. That's it. And you don't have to be like a pitcher, a basic throwing pattern. Again, the primary is the right hand release, actively releasing that right hand. So these couple of guys that I worked with in person, Pedro and Venkatesh, picked up between 30 and 60 yards.
Do it with some speed.
And Pedro was 3 days, Venkatesh was 2 days. And I did work with these guys in person, so that is cheating a little bit. So, but these guys completely changed the way they think about golf. Pedro went from 230 as a fit, young, athletic, 35-year-old dude who knows he should be able to hit the ball further, to hitting it almost 300 yards on his 3rd day. And no matter what it is, it's going to take a little bit of time to set in, right? Like you can't just make a miracle change like that. But this, for a lot of people who struggle with this other side and can throw, this is like a miracle cure because it just makes everything so much simpler. It's just releasing the right hand and throwing the right arm, and that's it. And then everything else, you're going to start getting into the right positions. You're going to stop making goofy mistakes where your club's going way inside on the way back. That's because you're trying to get a lot of power from your shoulders. And so you're going to turn really far back and you can't stop taking the club inside. So all of these things start fixing themselves. And again, it's what I think Tiger is doing, and I think it's just simpler. And I think that you're going to find more and more players in the future, as I'll show some of these on the screen here, who are actively releasing this right hand. And if you start understanding that, I think that you might start liking golf because you're going to get obsessed with the power that you can get from this immediately, right? Like these are people who watch this video one day and boom, they're gone. So I've always been a lead side. I like to have balance in the swing. So of course I used my right hand, but I would say I used it maybe 30% in the swings where I look like I'm barely swinging. But now I feel 130% right hand. So the feel is radically different. And that's the other thing, is that the only way to learn this, in my opinion, the right way to learn it, is actually to do it very quickly. I don't mean like go through a bunch of sequence of drills very quickly. I mean move quickly. Rather than slow motion stuff, which I think is necessary because the lead side pattern is just an unnatural movement compared to what we do in everyday life. And so you have to kind of work through some positions and understand them and start to feel them and see them in the mirror. And this, I taught the exact opposite. No slow motion drills, no positions, no mechanics. Literally, it was all done by feel. And I thought that was super important because, again, I see people get bound up in mechanics and they're thinking mechanics, and then they just don't realize how damaging that is when you're trying to play golf like that. If you're working on swing changes, you got to keep it super simple. But we all get in our own heads, right? There's a million things going on in our heads in the golf swing. And this guy, Venkatesh, that I just taught, he said he's got like 10 swing thoughts for every swing. And I'm like, man, no wonder, of course, the pace of play is so slow. Everybody's struggling with all these things going on in their head. And it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't be that way. So this is something that I teach in a completely antithesis way of how I would normally think about teaching the golf swing. The person that I think this move makes the most sense with is for those who don't have much patience. Like Ernie, in that clip that I played, he said he likes to feel like his left arm and club just fall from the top. That's how I've always felt in my swing, and I love that feeling. This, I don't do that at all. My transition is instant. And if you look at Tiger's swing, his swing is very quick. He doesn't have like a classically smooth, syrupy Ernie Els kind of golf swing. He's quick, and that's because of this throwing pattern. So when you start looking at these guys who are right arm dominant, right hand dominant, you're going to see their swings are very short, very quick. A lot of them, just as a tendency. Whereas you're going to see the lead side guys are going to have more of that classical, smooth, flowy, effortless swing. So you're going to see that shift in the tour. Like it's already changing. More and more guys are already swinging this way. And it's just natural, especially if you have like the hit instinct from the top. You go to the top and you just want to wail on it. This actually allows you to do that way more aggressively compared to a lead side dominant swing. Can't do that with that. You're just going to pull hard with your left arm, and that's going to get you steep, and then you're done, right? So no soft hands. Like, I can hold on to the clubs really firm now with this right side movement. And what's interesting, I always wondered how Tiger always had a piece of tape on his middle right finger, because he always says he gets a callus there and blamed it on the Florida heat and stuff. Well, I lived right down the street from Tiger. So I hit tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of balls there. And I never once, you could put 100 grit sandpaper on my right hand grip and it wouldn't change anything. My hands would still be soft when I left. Now I get it. Now I'm building a callus on that same hand. So it just again shows like a lot of things that we've thought about over the golf swing over all these years and learned and wondered about. Like now it's pretty easy to confirm this stuff that, there's two different ways of thinking about the golf swing at a basic pattern. Of course, there's a million different ways you can do it out there. But right side pattern, you're going to start doing things very differently. Again, it's not a smooth, syrupy swing. It's more of an athletic feeling golf swing. That's something that the feedback I've gotten from people who have done this is like they feel like athletes, like truly feeling like athletic on the golf swing. So if you want that kind of feeling versus the smooth, flowy stuff, it's a really good fit for you. It might make sense. So, and I think also people get injured a lot trying to learn mechanics, and because they're thinking mechanics, they can't swing correctly, so they're swinging very mechanically. And so that actually leads to a lot of injuries because you get stiffness and tightness in the wrong places at the wrong time. You're moving in the wrong sequence, and it's very easy to hurt yourself. So if you're not careful with lead side stuff and you're trying to generate power the wrong way, you're driving too aggressive with your body, it's really, really easy to put a lot of stress on your body, which you guys know I talked about in Tiger Swing many years ago. And unfortunately, a lot of bad stuff happened to him. So but because it's a more natural way for most people to understand how to move, they're less likely to get injured. And you're putting less stress on your body the more hand speed you add in there. But again, that's the one big, big difference is that I truly believe, and if you look at these videos of Tiger on here, I'm purposely focusing in on his hands. You can see how much he's releasing that right hand. And that's how I think you should learn this. Is how I'm teaching it to my students. So I've put together a little video kind of walking you through exactly how I'm doing this on the site. If you're a premium member, it's in there now. Go under GOAT Theory on the left, because I do think Tiger Swing is the greatest of all time. And I think it's actually easier to learn how to swing the way he's doing it than to try and swing any other way. So if you want a taste of what it feels like, head over to RotarySwing.com. And I also posted the full video that I did with Venkatesh. And so Venkatesh had never broken 80 in his life, and he plays like practices like 4 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week, right? So he's a serious dude. And he hadn't broken 80. He does the Axiom Power Program and breaks 80 like the next day. So he shoots 77, which is super cool. And then I go out there and work with him because I wanted to try doing some more experimentation, see if I could make this stuff even simpler. And in 2 days, he went out and hit not only his longest drive, 272, but he also shot 77 today. So in 2 weeks, he's broken 80 twice, and we didn't work on a single mechanic. We didn't do a single position. I never even grabbed, well, maybe grabbed his club a little bit, but like literally it was just giving him a feel that I just talked about, sidearm throw with active right hand release. So I posted that whole video that I did with his lessons. It's like hour and a half or something of me blabbering on about teaching him this stuff. But I got him to break 80 twice in 2 weeks and hit his longest drive of his life. Picked up 30 yards off the tee, 20 yards with all his irons, and went from never hitting a draw in his life. He literally said that to me. He hit every shot left to right and out on the toe. And now he's hitting every single shot when he releases correctly as a draw. So it's super cool to see not only to pick up a ton of distance, but he's changed his ball flight. And I will say 110% this is biased towards a draw. So 100%. So it was really easy for me to hit a cut lead side dominant. It's actually kind of hard for me to hit a cut now with a right side dominant swing because you're releasing the club so aggressively, the ball just wants to go straight the harder you release it. So it's a cool feeling, but I keep hitting it dead straight when I'm trying to hit a cut. And if I try to hit it straight, I hit it straight, or it draws just a little bit when I get a little bit underneath or a little too aggressive with my hands. But I really can't get that aggressive with my right hand. This is what was kind of interesting because I actually started telling Venkatesh in the lesson that you can watch to basically feel like he's flipping it. Now, of course, look at his images here. He's in a perfect impact position, but he's feeling that. That's how aggressive that I believe Tiger's releasing his right hand. And that's what's cool about this because I think that's what it feels like to swing like Tiger, to hit a ball like Tiger. Now, I've hit a lot of long shots. There's no argument, no secret that I hit the ball long ways, and I hit the ball very solid and very straight. But this feels like what I feel Tiger's doing in his swing. So if you want to have a potential taste of that, the results that it's generating, even if you had 50% of what Tiger's doing, you didn't get it 100%, which maybe a tall order. But even if it was 50%, it's still 1,000% better than what you're doing right now. And again, what I'm saying he's doing is so simple that there's very little risk in giving that a shot. So anyway, if you've struggled with the other stuff, this is likely exactly what you're looking for. It's very easy to feel and learn. The video that I did is very, very simple. It's just teaching you the sequence in which I taught it to these guys that got these results in person, and getting a little bit more into specifics about how to feel that release and how to do it just in a drill. But it's like stupidly simple, right? So, but again, if you want to check it out, if you're a premium member on the site, it's there. And please give me your feedback. I'd love to know how this works out for you guys. If you pick up distance, if you have any questions, let me know.